Hey, thanks for going down the road with us. We got a lot of things lined up for you today, not the least of which Congressman Kelly Armstrong is going to join us a little bit later in the show. He knows what I'm going to ask him. The one thing about Congressman Armstrong is he's not afraid to answer questions, and I respect the heck out of that. I'm going to ask him whether or not this race is over, whether or not it's, President elect Joe Biden. So his staff knows that's coming up, and it's going to be fun to hear and get his reaction to it. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a sore throat today, so you're going to hear a little bit of a throat clearing, which is a different way than I'd put it back home if I was around the boys just having a beer, just so you know. There is someone that whatever the state is paying her, it isn't enough. I'm just going to tell you. Molly Howell works for the North Dakota Department of Health, and she is the immunization program manager. In fact, let's visit with her. Molly, good to have you going down the road with us.
Thanks for having me.
I mean it. Whatever they're paying you, it isn't enough. Did you think when you took this job you were going to be the center of attention? All eyes were going to be on you?
No, but I've been at it for almost 18 years. So there's been a lot over the past 18 years that's been exciting in immunization. So I'm just looking forward to finally having a vaccine to fight COVID-19.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Molly, it started. We saw all the photos and the video from Great Britain, and we saw exactly what's going on across the shore, or across the ocean, I should say, a little bit. Where are we at today? To some of us, even though it's only been a couple, it feels like we're being left behind a little bit. Where are we at in North Dakota?
Well, the Food and Drug Administration, their advisory committee is meeting as we speak to go through all of the clinical trial data regarding the Pfizer COVID vaccine candidate. And we'll be making a recommendation as to whether or not the FDA should approve that vaccine under emergency use authorization. And so that could actually happen today, sometime today.
So if it happens today, then what kicks in after that?
Well, my understanding is once there's that, what we're calling an EUA, you might hear the term EUA, as soon as 24 hours after that, the COVID-19 vaccine can ship out to states. And so we have already placed our initial order for the Pfizer vaccine based on how much is being allocated to North Dakota. And so some of the providers in North Dakota could expect the vaccine as early as this weekend or early next week.
When you say providers, I guess everyone knows there's going to be a pecking order when it comes to who gets vaccinated. And I don't think it's any big secret that frontline healthcare workers and elderly nursing homes, I understand all that. But that's my speculation. Run through the decision process that you are going to make in terms of who gets the vaccines.
So the Federal Advisory Committee, excuse me, on immunization practices will make recommendations as to who should be the highest priority for COVID-19 vaccine. And it's likely those are going to be large groups. So for instance, the only group that they voted on so far for phase 1A is healthcare workers and long-term care residents. And so we're still waiting to hear who will be the next priority for vaccination. But because they're such large groups, we established a North Dakota COVID vaccination ethics committee to make tiers within those priority groups for vaccination. And so the phase 1A tier is posted on our website at the Department of Health, but it starts with frontline healthcare workers in emergency rooms, intensive care units, COVID units, EMS personnel, and then it moves on down the list through the different healthcare workers. Long-term care staff and residents are also a very high priority and are like right after our referral hospitals and their frontline healthcare workers. And so our initial shipment of vaccine, which will be 6,825 doses, will be first going to our referral hospitals to stabilize their workforce and our hospital capacity.
Is this left to the decision of the state, or is there some directive coming down from the federal government on how it's going to be administered?
The federal government will recommend who should be prioritized for the vaccine, But yes, it's ultimately left up to the state to determine those priorities.
Okay. So as you go about making this decision, you talked about a committee, you talked about some of those things. People are going to be knocking on the door. You're going to have two groups of people. You're going to have the people that don't want to take it, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, and then you're going to have the people that wanted it yesterday. So let's talk about the latter first. What do you do with individuals that are going to call and they're going to say, Molly, I want this, I need this. I'm a vulnerable person. I've got diabetes, my weight. I mean, all those different issues. What are you going to do when they call that 328 number and try to get a hold of you?
So we have already started receiving calls from individuals and groups interested in COVID-19 vaccine. And I guess right now I'm looking at this as a positive that people are interested in being vaccinated and truly care about wanting to be vaccinated. And so we're communicating our process to them so they understand that we're using science and ethics to determine who should ultimately receive the vaccine first. And then we are being transparent. All the ethics meetings are open meetings that are published on North Dakota's Secretary of State website. People can attend and listen in on their discussions about how they're prioritizing. And we'll keep everyone up to date as we move through the priority group so everyone is aware of who will be next in line for vaccine.
You talked about there are some people, and you looked at that as a positive, because one of the things and the challenges you're going to have to deal with is individuals that don't, want to take that vaccine. Have you put a plan in place? Are you going to, for example, on a national scale, we've got 3 former presidents all saying we will be the first in line to get that shot, just to show you how confident we are in that vaccine. But Molly, I know people in my own life that I work with that will not take the shot. It isn't saying they won't take the shot down the road, a year from now or whatever. They just don't feel comfortable being one of the first ones to take that shot. You've got to be hearing that a lot.
Yeah, we realize that there is some hesitancy around the COVID-19 vaccine, and I think it's understandable. It's brand new. The FDA really hasn't even approved it yet for use. And so I think once people receive additional education and understand the safety of the vaccine and the efficacy of the vaccine, then they may be more willing to take it. And I do think by healthcare providers getting vaccinated first, they're going to set a good example and model that behavior for other North Dakotans. And then hopefully others will be more comfortable taking it when they know their healthcare provider has accepted it and is recommending it.
Are they giving you a couple bucks to educate people on it? Let me give you an example. North Dakota put a fairly aggressive, after a while, mask up campaign out there. I think it did some good. I really do. I think it did some good. At the very least, it made people think when they saw those billboards, when they heard those radio ads and TV ads and those types of things. Are you going to get a budget so that you can make the case and make sure that all of the misinformation out there is being countered by people like yourself that actually understand the science of it?
So as part of the Mask Up campaign, we knew that there was a vaccine coming. And so some of those dollars have been devoted to promote the vaccination and address some of the concerns people have of the vaccination. And so we have already started working on that. And then I have received additional federal funding, and we do plan to use that for additional campaigns moving forward.
So when it's your turn, would you be comfortable and confident that you take it?
Yes, and I cannot wait for my mom and dad to receive it. That's who I want to have it first. So
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I have a mother that is so sick of being basically it's isolation. She can go around her retirement village, but it doesn't change the fact that she can't see her grandkids or great grandkids. So I completely hear you there. There's a number of different vaccines that are on the market. Is there one that you look at living in that world that you go to work in every day that you look at and say, wait, this one's better? This is the one that I hope I can get as much of as possible.
Well, the efficacy of the Moderna vaccine, which is also an mRNA vaccine, and the Pfizer vaccine are very similar according to their clinical trial data. And so I think if people are offered either one of those, they should definitely accept the vaccine. From a logistics point of view, the Moderna vaccine is a little bit easier in terms of storage and handling. It requires just a normal freezer, not the ultra cold freezer. And then it has 30 days of refrigerator stability versus only 5 days for the Pfizer vaccine. And so from a logistics standpoint, the Moderna vaccine will be much easier to manage in the state and much easier for providers to work with. But in terms of people wanting to be vaccinated, I think both vaccines appear to be fairly equal, and people can feel comfortable taking either one. Having said that, there are some vaccines in the pipeline that will, so both Pfizer and Moderna are 2-dose series. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which may be coming in the future, is a single-dose vaccine series. And so that would also have some benefit as well.
I got about 30 seconds left, but after you get vaccinated, can you still spread COVID? Say I'm vaccinated right now. I get my shots. Can I still pass COVID along? Do I still need to mask up? I know everybody's going to say mask up until we have herd immunity, but can I still spread COVID?
We don't yet know the answer to that question. So the clinical trials looked at if the vaccines prevented disease. So people having symptoms who then went in and got tested. And so we don't know if people can still spread or still develop asymptomatic infection. And so that will be determined as we have additional data moving forward. So we do believe you still do need to wear a mask and practice social distancing until we know more about these vaccines and more people are vaccinated.
Well, we have a hard time getting masks on them when they're not vaccinated. So I'm not being just a smart keister when I say good luck with that, because it's going to be hard, especially in a state like this. Molly, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for what you're doing. You've got one heck of a hard job. I wouldn't want it, but I'm glad you have it. So thanks for coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me.
Molly Howell, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, Congressman Kelly Armstrong, right after this.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink for trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Fort Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Fort Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Fort Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Down the Road. We got a couple of things left to cover today. The Attorney General joined North Dakota into a lawsuit that basically goes in front of the Supreme Court and makes an argument that the election needs to be in question. So all that's playing out on a national scale. I've heard North Dakota's name mentioned a lot. Well, one of the leaders that we have in North Dakota, one of our 3 elected officials that represent us in Washington, D.C., is Congressman Kelly Armstrong. And he's joined us right now. Congressman, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me on. This is kind of a cool format.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. We're just getting used to it, right? The thing of it is, if I could just make $50 for every time I'm told I got a face just made for radio, I'd be a rich man, Kelly. I really would be. Want to talk to you a little bit about, what we just hit on, which is you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I get that. You were reelected overwhelmingly. I think it's safe to say that I've always respected you, and you've always treated me with respect. So there's no fighting going on here by me asking you this, but is the election over?
Well, yeah, the election was over on November 3rd, unless you're in New York 22, where they keep finding ballots in desk drawers as it keeps going on. But the legal process associated with the election isn't over.
Should it be?
I think no. I think you have the right to do all of these things. There's actually 2 cases I'm following. Well, 3, but one was a 3 decision from the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But there was a case filed in Georgia last Friday, which is actually, I think, far and away, even no offense to the Texas Attorney General, the most cogent case that's been filed on behalf of the Trump campaign anywhere in the country. But so you have a Supreme Court issue. Obviously, Pennsylvania had one earlier. The Supreme Court will weigh in. When that happens, it happens. A little concerned in Georgia that nobody's filed a response yet. Feels a little bit like they might be running out the clock, which is oftentimes what happens in these. I mean, there's pretty hard deadlines right after an election and as we move up. And there should be. But also at the same time, everybody has an opportunity to use the court system.
Well, you say, which is what oftentimes happens in these, and I got to tell you, Congressman, I'm not used to it. I'm older than you, and I don't remember an election like this where this much has been contested, and that goes back to the 2000 election. So far, the president's record and his legal team's record in all of these lawsuits is 1-55. It's 1-55. You wouldn't even be sent to the minors if that's what your batting average was in baseball. You'd have been sent out and said, go back home and go to work for dad. So 1-55 is an abysmal record. At some point, is it time, and let me use the case that the Texas Attorney General is bringing to the United States Supreme Court. North Dakota threw in on that, and we'll get to that.
17 states. 17 states have
and
joined
one of
in
them's
on.
mine, and one of them is yours, North Dakota. And so, we've got a situation where we've got a Texas Attorney General who's got legal problems of his own, has gotten states to join in. One of those North Dakota and Wayne Stenjum threw in on, and it's going to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court won't hear that case, then are you done? Then will you admit to the fact that Joe Biden is president-elect?
Yeah, I mean, Joel, I'm a lawyer, right? Once legal challenges are over and there's nowhere else to go as this moves forward, yes. I mean, a very good district court judge told me way back when I was practicing criminal law, is like, regardless of how you view the outcome, and sometimes they're not always right because they're smartest, they're right because they're last. When the legal challenges are over, and I mean, January 6th, delegates are seated, then yeah, I mean, regardless of who is president, since I've been alive before I've been elected in politics, and for as long as I move forward, when Inauguration Day comes, whoever's in that seat will be the president of the United States.
So if he's fighting, if President Trump is making a legal challenge on January 19th, will you and others from your side of the aisle still say, well, he's got every right to do it, I will not acknowledge that tomorrow Joe Biden's going to get to be president?
If there's still, well, I don't think that's realistic in how it goes. I think there are different versions of legal challenges. My colleague Lance Gooden has asked for a special prosecutor or a special investigator to look at these things, but I don't think that will affect the electorate as it's being set right now. So, like, I would support that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to support the inauguration if it's Joe Biden when he gets inaugurated into president. I mean, I came to Congress 2 years after President Trump got elected, served on a judiciary committee where the Democratic members of that committee still wouldn't acknowledge he was president. So no, I don't think that's healthy for the country. But I'm never going to begrudge anybody for exhausting their legal remedies.
So I'm
not the least of which is the president of the United States.
I'm gonna use my 9-year-old granddaughter as the example. And trust me, someday when you have grandkids, you'll know why you think them so much. They go home, by the way. That's the good thing about grandkids. But
my mom tells me the same thing.
My 9-year-old granddaughter is about as bright as they come. And she's in a classroom right now, and they're learning about government. They're learning about democracy. And one of the things that she's seeing splashed all over the news is a president of the United States, every time he can possibly get his fingers to work on his Twitter account, saying that this is a rigged election. Tell me how that is good for America. Tell me how that is good for our democracy.
So I watched this happen, and I have recognized this probably as much. I watched somebody try and set up an incoming NSA agent through the FBI with a 200-year-old act that has never been successfully prosecuted. So, I mean, our president is using Twitter in the court system. So as we walk through this, I have a little bit of trepidation with the absolute, and I'm trying to do it either, right? I spent the first 6 months of being in Congress making sure I don't want other states interfering in North Dakota elections. That was H.R. 1. But I think there's a whole lot of people out here that should take a good hard look in the mirror about how they treated this stuff. Because like I said, I got here 2 years late, and this stuff was all still going on. So, I mean, using Twitter in the court system is a little different than some of the things that I've got the unfortunate opportunity to read and be a part of.
So in the 30 seconds I have left, does that make it all right then?
Hey, I mean, they're using the legal system. Listen, I've been the first person to say, and that actually, I'll tell you, one of the things that's unfortunate, Wisconsin case wasn't a fraud case. The Georgia case isn't a fraud case. There are actual questions about election issues in there. The Georgia case is simply an overwhelming case about the difference in tainted ballots and the number of absentee ballots. It's not a fraud case. So yeah, I wish the rhetoric was a little more specific about what we were dealing with. I really do. I've always said that.
But 3 times in Georgia, they counted the ballots. The Republican Secretary of State and his people validated the ballots. And yet we're sitting there with people having their homes and their lives threatened. I mean, at some point, Congressman, this has to end.
If you want to argue that some of the cases that have been filed haven't been that great, you're not going to get an argument from me. That's the problem, though, right? The case that was filed on Friday is without a doubt the most cogent legal case filed. But in order to do that, you have to collect the information, collect the data, and deal with it. And then you run into these back timelines of December 8th, Safe Harbor, December 14th, all of that. So there are real issues that go there. And like I said, you're not going to get a disagreement with me that some of these cases shouldn't have been filed and that some lawyers should spend more time in a courtroom and less time in press conferences. I'll agree with that.
Do you think
the Supreme
Court hears the case that Wayne Stanjum's making?
I don't know. They're asking for some pretty novel things, and I don't know, but I think they are very conscious of what the deadlines are moving forward.
Okay. Congressman, go shoot some birds when you get home this weekend, okay?
I'm going to keep working in D.C. for the rest of the day, try and get home tomorrow.
Okay. Congressman Kelly Armstrong, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, you want to talk about something new in the tech world? We'll talk about it right here as we go down the road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
We still got gas in the tank, which means we're still going down the road. A little bit later, we're going to be joined by Tyler Axness. We're going to talk about what the Attorney General of North Dakota did, as we were making reference to with Congressman Armstrong just a little bit ago. But Grady Hanna is going to join us now. Grady is the CEO of Nightwear, and he's good enough to come on with us. Grady, good to have you going down the road with us.
Thanks so much for having us.
First off, let's begin here. Tell people what Nightwear is.
Nightwear is a digital therapeutic that runs on a smartwatch, and it's focused on treating nightmares, which is a key symptom of traumatic stress. It monitors a person's sleep using the sensors on a Nightwear watch, and then it can tell when they're entering a nightmare, and it buzzes the watch with increasing intensity to arouse the sleeper from the nightmare without waking them up. And so people with PTSD, they're reliving the traumas that are really causing the post-traumatic stress in their dreams. So they can't even escape what they're dealing with in their dreams. And this gives them a way to get that part of their life back, get their sleep back, so that they can deal with their day. At least they're well rested, and they got a little more gas in the tank, as it were, to go out and live their lives.
So how does it do that? I mean, that's fascinating to me. I mean, I'm not a techie. I'm not the average person that you're talking to right now over Beck Communications and down the road. This isn't what we understand or do. I mean, how physically does it sense that? How does it know?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity because we're able to use off-the-shelf technology to treat a really serious problem, because when these nightmares occur, people's heart rate spikes up, and in a lot of the cases, they're thrashing around a little bit, and so it's the rate at which the people enter this state. Their adrenaline level gets up, and it happens really quickly upon the nightmares coming on. And so, a young guy who wanted to help his dad, who was returning from Iraq with PTSD and nightmares, he figured this out. He was able to help his dad, and now we've ran randomized clinical trials, and we're trying to help a lot more people. But there's some complexity under the hood, but the simplicity of it it's really exciting.
That's just amazing to me. I think you'd have a hard time finding anyone in America anymore that doesn't know someone with PTSD. When I grew up, you didn't call it PTSD. I mean, you didn't. I knew a gentleman that came home from World War II, and he shook like crazy. Another man could hardly speak. I mean, he was on the beach in Normandy, and the other one walked through the sand with Rommel for years, or chasing after him for years. And so these guys were in the heart and soul of it. And basically, because of that, because of the fact they couldn't sleep, I mean, quite frankly, Grady, they ended up becoming alcoholics. They ended up becoming, in one person's instance, he became homeless. And they struggled at life after they had given us a better life. And so if something like this can solve that, what does his dad say? After putting this to work with his dad, what reaction did his dad have?
Well, Sergeant Skosacik and lots of other vets and non-vets have utilized nightwear to great effect in our trials. And so they really describe it as when you're not sleeping, you're not thinking straight. You're more irritable. You're quicker to decisions. You're quicker to your temper. And so by getting your sleep, you're just better able to deliberate. It's not like all life's problems go away, but you're better able to think through things. And more importantly, just as you mentioned, if you are self-medicating, right? If you are drinking yourself to where you're knocking yourself out so you don't dream, you don't feel the need to do that as much. There's a lot of just really great knock-on effects that happen once you get in your sleep. Sleep deprivation is a serious problem, and reliving this trauma. It's like you're replaying this trauma every day. So that's what you're waking up with, right? We've all had nightmares. They're awful, right? You feel that sense of dread. You want to forget about them. Now imagine you're reliving something that actually happened to you, and you don't know when it's coming next, right? You're almost afraid to go to sleep.
You said clinical trials. How do you do that? I mean, a lot of people, I realize, hire a firm, and then the firm is used to doing research and all that. But to find the type of subject matter, that you need to do something like this, I mean, how do you do that? I mean, can you find the type of people you need to make sure you're achieving the goal?
Well, a lot of Nightwear's focus is on veterans, and that's not because we don't understand that there are non-veterans that have PTSD and nightmare disorder, but it's such a huge part of that population, and these folks tend to go to the VA. They go to other care providers too, but the VA, they're doing all they can to try to solve this problem. And so our trial site was the Minneapolis VA. And we also have a site at the Tampa VA. And everybody who entered the trial has a previous diagnosis of post-traumatic stress and some indication of nightmares. And then they're screened to see where their current state of nightmares are. When we talk with mental health practitioners, PTSD is the largest group of folks that they're seeing in the mental health space. It's about a third of all cases. And they estimate that 50 to 75% of those folks with PTSD have nightmares. And so we recruit from the VA population folks that have been diagnosed with PTSD. Again, not to say that there aren't folks with PTSD in the civilian population, but it's more fragmented, right? Whereas within the VA, veterans are a tight group. They stay in touch, and they tend to, a lot of folks that have seen combat, they tend to get their care from the VA. And so that's really our starting point.
So how pumped were they? I mean, how excited were they? You come in, you do these trials, it works. Obviously it works. And then you send them home with one. I mean, they go back, and for the first time in a long time, they're getting consistent, good sleep. Have you heard back from them after the trials?
We've had some, because the trials are randomized, so people don't know whether they're receiving the treatment or not. But then post-trial, we give them the active treatment under a virtual trial. And yeah, we get great feedback. Nothing works for everybody, but the overwhelming majority of folks, they're seeing a lot of benefit from nightwear. And anecdotally, right, so the key with being an FDA cleared product is you need to bring the evidence. Prescribers want to know that what they're bringing forward has strong evidence behind it. But what I can say from people that I've interacted with is they've been able to, now they're starting to work out again. Things that they couldn't do because they didn't have any gas in the tank. They're now able to do that. And so there's just all kinds of really measurable effects, right, that you can fit neatly into a clinical trial. But I think everybody can understand intuitively, if you've been having nightmares 2, 3, 4 times a week every night for years, you're not going to have a positive outlook on life. So if all of a sudden you're able to get that part of your life back, then you're able to move forward.
So the same thing works on a 10, 12-year-old kid that can't sleep at night because they continue to have nightmares?
Well, that's doing trials with children, our indication is for people 22 and older. And we certainly have interest in doing trials with other populations. But as a startup, we just received FDA clearance. We're focusing on where our indicated label currently is, but we certainly see other opportunities to help folks. There are lots of different disease states that manifest with nightmares, and we're certainly interested in that. But there are so many folks, veterans, responders, victims of trauma, sexual trauma, people that are dealing with this that, right now with our current indication from the FDA, we can go and we can market to them and help them. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, so can you buy it? Can you go somewhere and say, all right, you sold me. I want this. What store do I go to? Because you know what? I was in the heart and soul of it in Vietnam, and I haven't slept decent in years. I mean, where do they go to get what you've got?
So NightWear's available by prescription. And so what somebody would need to do if they're not a part of the VA system, where they're covered through the VA or the Department of Defense, is they would need a prescription. And then at this point, it's for non-VA folks, it's self-pay, which is not ideal. Where our goal is to get coverage in the commercial markets, but we're a small team, so we're focused on the VA at this point. But we certainly want to hear from folks. They can email us at info@nightwear if they want to learn more about Nightwear, because this is a mission-driven company. We, like you said, everybody can associate with having somebody who's in a tough position, who's having trouble, and especially if they've served our country, it just doesn't feel right that these folks are falling through the cracks. And so we want to help folks in any way we can.
Grady, you're making a difference, and the folks that you work with are making a difference. And just think, this all happened because a young man didn't like the fact that his father, who served this country, couldn't sleep. I mean, how incredibly cool is that? You bet. Congratulations. I hope this continues to help even more people.
Thank you so much.
You bet. When we come back, we're going to get a chance to visit with Tyler Axness. He's a fellow talk show host in the East here with me on the Mighty 790 KFGO. Also, he has his own website called ND Explains, which quite frankly is one of the best pieces you can go for information out there. Tyler Axness when we come back.
Howdy folks, it's a County Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Good to have you still going down the road with us. The next guest that we're going to bring in is Tyler Axness. Now, Tyler is a talk show host, just like me, which means from one of the most honorable professions you could possibly be a member of. We kind of stir it up. We get people talking, and quite frankly, that's our job. Also, you go to his website, you go to Andy Explains, and you're going to see research done. You're going to see things not fake news. That's what I like about it. It's real news, and I'm going to bring Tyler in. Tyler, good to have you going down the road with us.
Joel, always a pleasure.
So, what made Wayne Stenjum decide in the morning that he is going to use North Dakota's reputation and resources to sue Georgia and to say that this election has all been falsified?
It's a great question. And I almost want to take a step back because this is the second time that he has joined and followed the lead of the Texas Attorney General to add North Dakota's name to a lawsuit to overturn something that isn't just necessarily on North Dakota, it's across the nation. So a couple of things come to mind. One, Wayne can no longer talk about states' rights and wanting to be a conservative because he's trying to impose his will upon other states. And if we're going to talk about not wanting any judicial activism, you have now entered North Dakota into two cases that you want the bench to actively overturn something. First, they came for your health care. Now they're coming to overturn your vote. Now, who asked him? What gave him the gall to get up in the morning and say, you know what, today's the day I'm going to sign on to something? That's a question that I don't think we'll ever get an answer to because we didn't get it for the first one, Joel.
Wayne Stenjum looks at you and says, what are you worried about? I threw in, we're just trying to find out the facts. And by the way, this isn't costing North Dakota anything. What's your answer to that?
Well, I would like to see a schedule. Did you volunteer your time to add North Dakota's name to this list? Did you have any help from any of the attorneys in your office? Or did you ask them to volunteer time? Because if you're spending time within the office, you and I and the watchers of Beck and down the road here paid for that time to be utilized to join this frivolous lawsuit that is probably not even going to be taken up. The other thing, when we talk about what is costing the state of North Dakota, it's not just tax dollars, it's reputation. You know, and we're now one of 16 states that bottom line of what the intent of this lawsuit is to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. That's a troubling thing, a troubling precedent for any election going forward, Joel.
I made the argument of this. You're a young grade school student and you're sitting there talking about government and how government works, and the attorney general from your state, when they take a look at another state that has counted their ballots 3 times, that has had people from the Republican side of the aisle affirm and say, you know what, this election's real. There's no fraud here. And so, you know what, Joe Biden won Georgia. And then you fast forward it, and Bill Barr, the nation's attorney general, said, there's no evidence of fraud here. And so North Dakota's attorney general, and you brought up the revenue, and you also brought up the reputation. North Dakota's attorney general seems to go with whatever the Texas attorney general, who, by the way, we can use the word indictment there, as well, some legal problems of his own. But North Dakota's Attorney General just says, what do you want? What do you need? Here, I'll sign off on it. And in the end, I'm sitting there looking at national news, and all I see is North Dakota went in, North Dakota threw in. What in the heck did we have to get ourselves involved in it for?
Well, and Joel, I mean, at what point is there accountability to the people that actually elected you? This is perhaps the thing that frustrates me about this. One of the most frustrating things. I mean, I don't even know how to pick the top one, but these are from people that know better. Wayne Stenstrom has made his entire career, or most of it as an adult, relying on the very process he's trying to upend. Him and Kevin Cramer for the United States Senate. I know you had Congressman Armstrong on. They know the ins and outs of counting votes. They know the process. They rely on it for their salary, for the title, and all the benefits that come with it. And at what point does Wayne Stenstrom stop relying on an intern to answer phone calls from people that are upset, wanting to ask, why are you doing this? How much is it costing us? And at what point does he stop relying on the intern and start answering to you, to the the little old lady that's calling to his office phone that can't get through, and when they do, it's, do you support this, do you not, and then they hang up.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an arrogance that has overswept not just North Dakota politics, but I think just nationally speaking of, look, once I get the title, I can just get away with whatever. There's no accountability anymore, Joel.
Well, okay, so let me do this. 701-328-2210. Again, grab your cell phone right now, folks. I got mine right here. And punch in 701-328-2210. And tomorrow, call Wayne at his office and say, you're my attorney general. And tell him yes if you think he's doing the right thing. Or if you're me, and I tried calling 3 times today and the phone's busy, I want to say, what were you thinking of? Why? Why are you picking a fight when in North Dakota, every election you've been involved in that you've won, you think it's just great and hunky-dory?
Well, we never question it, and even with this lawsuit that Wayne Stenstrom added our names to, it's picking which states, and it's the states that Joe Biden won. Yep. And I know there's going to be people that are watching this that want to say, Tyler, it's about the process that happened, this, that, the other thing. Some of the process that they're trying to nitpick is what was utilized in June during the primary in North Dakota by executive order that Doug Burgum changed that allowed for more mail-in voting and didn't require every county to have an open polling location, not an award. So if you're Dan Johnston, who just narrowly lost the primary race for treasurer's office, are you looking at this now? Because now there's a precedent. You're saying, well, hold on. If we're going to start questioning the process of other states, Wayne, let's look at what happened in June here. Because some of what I'm hearing out in the chatter of, well, they want to look at the executive changes. It should have been legislatively done. It didn't happen that way June here in North Dakota, Joel.
You know what's got them so mad? What's got them so mad is they can't sequester votes if you can vote by mail. In a lot of these states where they're sitting there now and they've opened it up and you've got voter registration so people know who's registered to vote, they can apply for it, they can get a ballot, they can make sure that that registered voter gets a ballot. But for the first time in a long time in some of these states where they're able to say, look, we know there's 1.2 million people, but you can have one voting site, just one voting site. And so people are like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to go stand in line for 8 hours. So no more of that. I get it. All right, there's my ballot. I'm going to put a stamp on it. And that scares the bejeepers out of them. And the reason it scares the bejeepers out of them is because, number one, a lot of the people that vote on the opposite side of the aisle as Wayne work hard for a living in the sense that they can't just take off and go vote. Number two, these individuals have always been of the ilk of, hey, you've made it so hard for me. You've made it so. We should have a national day off on Election Day. That's what we should have.
Joel, you talking about this reminds me of what happened in 2013 right here in North Dakota. It seems as though when outcomes have not gone the way some politicians want, they try to change the rules. This one's happened more quickly, and they're trying to go to the highest court in the country because they want judges, not voters, to the outcome of this presidential election. But in 2013, your sister wins unexpectedly for a lot of people observing North Dakota politics. What they do in North Dakota, they went and made it more difficult for certain populations to vote, voter ID. And me being out there, if you want to have voter ID, that's fine.
If they
then
could
pay
get
for
every
it.
Native
Pay for
American
it.
not to vote, they'd be happy.
Well, and
That's really what you're saying.
Well,
they did everything they could to stop voting on reservations.
They made it very difficult. And that finally, I think, got closer to resolution this year, 2020, than it was 7 years ago.
So what happens if he loses? What happens if the Supreme Court just takes that document and says, get out of here? Get out of here. This didn't even belong in front of us. What does that look like for Wayne Stanjum in the state of North Dakota?
I think it gives the state a black eye, but you just put this as another tally mark of a lawsuit that was frivolous that Wayne Stanjum added us to that he lost. Will there be any accountability, which I want to go back to? Not likely. Not anytime soon when it comes to electoral politics in this state. I mean, we've seen the trends go the way they are. As far as when's that deadline where people, and I tried to give the benefit of the doubt to some people that this is the first time they're observing the actual process of counting votes. Wayne Stanjum knows better. Kelly Armstrong knows better. When do they have any accountability? I don't know, Joel.
Just for the life of me. I mean, I can't imagine anything more embarrassing than to take something directly to the Supreme Court. And you got a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court that are conservatives, and they tell you to go fish. Quit wasting our time. Tyler, good to have you on.
Yeah,
thanks for
Joel.
coming on. When we come back, some closing comments in regards to Wayne Stanjum right after this as we go down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boss and Breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Thanks for making this trip down the road with us. I want to talk about two things before we close out today's show. I want to talk about reputation, and I want to talk about resources. First being resources. in the sense that this frivolous lawsuit that Attorney General Wayne Stenjum has involved the good name of North Dakota in is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous in this sense that when it comes to resources, he said it doesn't cost us any money. It costs us money. Tell that intern at the front desk that's sitting there getting blasted by the phone right now whether or not it's costing her life any money. We're paying her, and all she's doing is answering the phone every 2 seconds, and then they're bringing in help to answer the phone. Now, that's pretty small. But what about those attorneys back in his office? Those same attorneys that had to say, all right, I read the brief. I've taken a look at this thing. Here's what the Texas Attorney General is saying we should do, and it's good for politics. Donald Trump's going to love this. Oh, by the way, he's going to invite you to the White House, which, by the way, the attorney generals are at the White House today. But he's going to invite you to the White House, and maybe he'll give you one of those pins. Let's go along with this. Let's sign on to it. That took time. That took resources. And that's what you are paying for. That's exactly what you're paying for, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's go to the reputation, okay? All over the national news, what do we hear? North Dakota threw in with the state of Texas in suing over states that are not in, right? Right. I mean, they're suing over Georgia. None of these are the Georgia Attorney General. We're sitting here injecting ourselves into other states' elections when everyone knows that states run their own elections. So in other words, we're taking the federal government and injecting it into local government, which is exactly what Wayne Stenjum and the Republicans have been against for years. But it's okay now because they lost. It's okay now because we don't like losing. When the Supreme Court of the United States of America throws this lawsuit out and says we're not going to hear it, what's the reaction going to be from North Dakotans on what their Attorney General did? I can tell you what my reaction is going to be. I'm not going to be surprised, but I'm going to be ticked. It's always good riding with you, folks. Take care.